Continuation of explanation of the 10th lesson of English supplementary text called A Strange Wrestling Match. If you remember, in the first part, I've taken up, we have already started explaining, and the first part of the lesson is explained duly, and the questions have been discussed briefly with the instruction being given to you to prepare the notes on your own. Okay. So after reading the first part, you came to understand that Vijay Singh was a really tough and strong man. He was one very fine wrestler, isn't it? Everything about him was very fine. He was strong, sturdy, popular in his village, and he was a well-known Pahalwan, right? But he had one issue, or so as to say, he had a shortcoming, a problem. So what was the issue? The issue was that Vijay Singh was what? He used to boast of his abilities, speak highly without thinking of the consequences. And then this nature of him landed him into some sort of trouble where one of his admirers, people who love you or like you, one of his admirers went on to tell him, he was very fierce. And Vijay Singh said, what? Humans, I can even fight ghosts and all. And so that is why he had to go and meet a ghost. And so it happened that he went to meet one. Clear? So we have already done this. Now let's discuss the second part. Okay, let's start reading. So what do we have in the second part? Let's find out. In the second part, we'll find Vijay Singh will demonstrate his strength. Demonstrate means to showcase his strength by crushing what the ghost thought was a piece of rock. Okay, he will crush something, and seemingly it would be a rock. The ghost would think it was a rock, but it could be something else. We do not know. Only after reading duly we'll understand. Okay, the ghost avoided a wrestling bout. Bout means tussle, sort of physical confrontation. Clear? So the ghost avoided a wrestling bout with Vijay Singh, but decided to conquer him through cheating. See, ghost also, he decided to defeat Vijay Singh through cheating. Invited Vijay Singh to be his guest for the night. Clear? So he would invite Vijay Singh to spend the night with him. Okay. So now let's continue reading further. Vijay Singh picked up a piece of rock from the sand. Take this, he offered it to the ghost, and squeezed it hard. What do you mean by squeeze? If you squeeze something, you press it from both ends. Okay, clear? So Vijay Singh took a piece of rock and he started squeezing it. Okay, he offered the rock to the ghost and asked the ghost to squeeze it. Clear? And then before the ghost actually started, he declared that the rock was filled with fluid. Fluid, right? Liquid sort of thing. So see if I'm wrong. So he was challenging ghost. He said, take up this piece of rock, try and squeeze it, and you will find some sort of fluid flowing out of the rock. Okay. And then he said, can you prove me wrong? Clear? While the ghost would try to comply with his instructions. See here. While the ghost tried to squeeze the rock, first with one hand, then with both, Vijay Singh stealthily took out the egg from his pocket. See, this is where Vijay Singh will make use of the egg given by that old eccentric lady. Clear? So while the ghost was trying very hard to squeeze the rock so that the fluid comes out, Vijay Singh, stealthily, without the ghost noticing him, slightly he took out the egg from his pocket, and now he'll be using that egg. Clear? So now let's continue reading. Vijay Singh snatched. To snatch means to take away forcibly, right? Vijay Singh snatched the rock from the ghost and placed it between both hands and squeezed. So very simple. He took away the rock from the ghost and then he started squeezing the same. At once the yellow yolk oozed out. Yolk, right? Let's say this is so at once the yellow yolk oozed out, and it cracked in between his hand and the rock. So as soon as it cracked, it produced one crackling sound, isn't it? So that gave an impression to the ghost that the rock had been crushed. Okay, and as the egg was crushed simultaneously, what happened? The yolk, the whitish, liquidish, not fluid, not liquid, fluid, the fluid flowed out of his hand, giving the impression to the ghost that Vijay Singh was indeed very strong man who had just crushed a rock in front of him. Okay, so this is what. Okay, he create an illusion. Illusion means a false idea. Okay, something that would give you an image as though it was happening, but in reality exactly opposite of what was being shown was happening. Okay, so let's continue reading. The ghost was astonished. Astonished means surprised. Clear? What is the meaning of the word astonished? Remember, it is surprised. Clear? Yeah. So the ghost was so astonished. He did not notice Vijay Singh bending to clean his hands with sand and disposing of the telltale shell. Clear? And the ghost was taken aback. He was shocked. He was surprised. He was so shocked and in awe of Vijay Singh that he did not even notice Vijay Singh disposing of the eggshell and then cleaning his hand. Clear? Vijay Singh did it very tactfully. Okay. Vijay Singh then picked up another piece of rock and gave it to the ghost. Now Vijay Singh was trying to play a trick. He gave another piece of rock and gave it to the ghost. This time he'll be using something else. Let's find out what. Okay. Without a word, the ghost took it, felt it, and peered at it. Okay. So without speaking anything, the ghost simply snatched it from the hands of Vijay Singh and he took a great look at it, wondering, maybe Vijay Singh played some kind of trick on him. Okay. Vijay Singh put his hand into his pocket to take out the lump of salt. Now this time Vijay Singh will be using the lump of salt. Okay. So this is how he was planning to trick the ghost. At first, what did he use? He used the egg. Secondly, what is he going to use? He is going to use the lump of salt. Okay. So he was not only strong, this shows he was also using his wisdom. He was being wise. Okay. This is only a stone, protested the ghost, and anyway it is too dark to see. So the ghost says, what are you saying? This is only a stone and it's too dark to see. Okay. So what would Vijay Singh say? Never heard of a ghost who can see in the dark, remarked Vijay Singh. That stone which you hold in your hand contains salt. Okay, so Vijay Singh went on to add another layer of level to it. He said, what kind of ghost are you? You're claiming that you cannot see through dark. The stone which you are holding in your hand right now contains salt inside it. Okay, so he went on to challenge the ghost. He said, crumble it and see. Okay, crush it and see. So now the ghost will comply again. Again the ghost tried to crush the stone, but in vain. The ghost tried his best to crush the stone, but it all went in vain. Means it was of no use. All his effort went in vain. Okay. He handed over the stone to Vijay Singh. Now what happened? He kept trying, but since he could not, do what he could not successfully crush the rock and extract salt out of it, he handed it over to Vijay Singh. Okay. The ghost was now beginning to doubt his ghostly powers. So it's very funny. So the ghost was now beginning to question his own ability. He was doubting his power, whether or not he was strong enough. Clear? I can see that you are not going to be a worthy opponent. What's the use of wrestling with a weakling whom I can floor in a minute? So Vijay Singh was adding salt to his injury. Okay, he said, what kind of a ghost you are? You are very weak. I don't want to waste my time fighting with a ghost as weak as you are. Okay. So after saying this, Vijay Singh crumbled the lump of salt and let the stone drop in the darkness. So Vijay Singh uses, brains again. Since he had already taken out the lump of salt, he applied the same trick. Okay, he crumbled the lump of salt and he made the stone drop in darkness without the ghost noticing so. And then he showed the he made the ghost feel the salt, giving him the idea that Vijay Singh was strong enough. Okay. He held out his hand and commanded the ghost to take the powdered stone. Okay, so he stretched out his hand and told the ghost, "Here it is, I've crushed the second stone. You can touch the salt and see it as a proof." Okay. Mesmerize. If you are mesmerized, you are so dissolved when you see something extraordinary. Clear? You are in awe of whatever is happening in front of you. Clear? So same thing was happening with the ghost. Mesmerized with the extraordinary, mesmerized with the Pahalwan's extraordinary strength. The ghost did as he was told. Alarm shot through him. Okay, so he was very mesmerized. He was lost. He was in awe of the ghost. Alarm shot through him. Okay, he was sort of alarmed also. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice was running and telling him, this man is strong. Okay. This man could easily vanquish him in a wrestling bout in the dark. So the ghost was already beginning to get scared. Okay, he thought, such a powerful man, he will just vanquish, means he will wind me up. He'll defeat me in a matter of seconds. How could I even defeat him? How could I even think of defeating him? Is what the ghost was thinking now. Okay, but perhaps he could be tricked in other ways. But the ghost was again trying to act smarter than the man. He thought, maybe not with his power. Stout club. Stout means what? Thick here. Clear. Club would be a strong wooden, let's say, club, right? You can call it stick. Okay. He brought the club down on what he thought was Vijay Singh's hand. Okay, so he kept striking the bolster on what he thought was Vijay Singh's hand. He kept striking again and again. Clear? Not hearing even a groan, he smiled, pleased that he had killed his enemy. So he did not even hear Vijay Singh make the slightest of groan. Groan means crying in pain. Okay, he was smiling in happiness, thinking he had killed Vijay Singh. Okay. However, just to make doubly sure, he struck the bolster 6 times more. So to make sure that his enemy had died completely, he struck the bolster 6 times more with a thick club that he had carried. Okay. Satisfied with his work, he returned to his couch and covering his head, settled down to sleep again. So he was very, very happy. Okay, the ghost, he, settled down on his bed, thinking his work was completely done now. Okay. So meanwhile, Vijay Singh crept silently back into the bed. After a pause, he groaned, as if in disgust, threw back his coverlet and sat up. Okay, he went back to his bed and as though something silly had happened to him, he woke up as if he was in some sort of small problem, disgust, he was angry. Okay. Disturbed by the noise, the ghost peeped from under his bedclothes to see the strong man stretching his arms above his head and yawning. So the ghost was disturbed by what was happening. So he was just peeping through to see what Vijay Singh was doing. Clear? And he was kind of shocked to see this strong man, Vijay Singh, stretching his arm by sitting on the bed simply and yawning. Okay. Friend ghost. So Vijay Singh would start speaking. Friend ghost, there are insects in your cave. He said, friend ghost, there are insects in your cave. In a complaining voice, he said, clear. Here I was enjoying the sweetest sleep I have had in years, and there comes this insects to trouble me. I distinctly counted 7 flappings of its wings. Of course, it has not bitten me, but it's most annoying. Okay, so he said, friend, your house is full of this creepy insects. While I was enjoying the best sleep of my life in several years, some of them came and they came to bite me. They tried to, bite me 7 times. Of course, nothing had happened to him. Okay. He said they could not do nothing to me, but it's annoying. Okay. The ghost panicked. Now the ghost was very shocked. He He was wondering, oh my god, I just clubbed him 7 times with the strongest of clubs, and now he was here. He was comparing my beatings with that of a insect bite, as though mosquitoes had bitten him. Okay, he was panicked. Those 7 blows would have reduced any other man to pulp. Okay, he had hit them so hard that those 7 blows would have killed any man on earth. There is no safety near a formidable wrestler like this, he thought, and fled from the cave, leaving behind all his ill-gotten wealth. Okay, so the ghost left. He thought, oh my god, if I stay nearby a man who's as strong as this one, he would do anything to me, so it's time I leave this place. Okay, so he fled away, he ran away, leaving behind all his ill-gotten wealth, whatever wealth he had procured from the travelers who used to travel through night taking this route. He left everything and ran away. Okay, it took several camels from the village to remove the property Vijay Singh had acquired. So Vijay Singh got several camels to take back the property he had acquired from the ghost. Okay, he returned much of it to the rightful owner. So Vijay Singh was a very rightful person, very honest person, a man with integrity. What did he do? He returned much of the property he got from the ghost to the rightful owner, the people who were actual owners of those property. Okay, he went especially to the old woman. So he went to the old woman and he thanked her for her invaluable gift, the valuable gift which he had given to him while he was on his way to meet the ghost. Okay, and in return, what did he do? He asked for her granddaughter's hand in marriage. He would marry a granddaughter, is what he requested the old lady for. Clear? Then force. So thereafter, Vijay Singh was more careful about boasting. He did not boast as much as he used to. Clear? He was now matured and sensible. It is said that no traveler was ever troubled again in the haunted desert. So after that, no traveler was ever troubled again in the haunted desert. So with this, we come to conclusion of the story. What do you think? Who this ghost was actually? Do you think it was the ghost, or was it a human in the disguise of a ghost? Think about it. It cannot be a ghost, right? Because a lot of wealth was recovered from his possession, which was clear enough to suggest that this must be a thug who was in disguise of a ghost and had been looting people, an innocent traveler who had been traveling using that route. Okay, so he was a thug in reality. So this is written by Indra David. Written by whom? Indra David. Okay. So now there will be question and answer. Supplementary question and answers are very simple, class. What I want you to do is try them on your own. If you think you still have problem, I'll of course help you. Clear? But first up, you have to try them. Okay, try to complete them on your own. So what are the nature of the question? Let's summarize. Let's try and see first. First, 1. How did Vijay Singh use the egg? How did he use the lump of salt? How did he use the egg? He used the egg to crush it against the stone to give an idea or to make an assumption as though he was crushing the rock and fluid was oozing out of it. How did he use the lump of salt? He used the lump of salt in similar manner as though he had crushed the rock by holding the lump of salt in one hand and the rock in other. He squeezed them both while stealthily throwing away the rock without the ghost noticing him. Okay, so why did Vijay Singh conclude that the ghost would not be a worthy opponent to him? Because he was trying to size up his enemy so and so. Was he fair in his judgment? Of course he was fair, right? So you have to try this on your own. So why did Vijay Singh ask the ghost to accompany him to the town next day? Because he wanted to show it to the people of his village that he had conquered the ghost who people were very scared of, right? So what made the ghost believe Vijay Singh was dead? He had struck him 6-7 times with a stout club any man on his position would be dead, right? So he was pretty assured that he had killed his enemy. Vijay Singh complained of insects in cave. See, class, I'm giving you just hint. Clear? While answering them, you have to take care of language, grammar, and so many things. Make them. Show it to me. Ask me if you still have problem. I'll help you, like I've said. So Vijay Singh complained of insects in the cave. What was he referring to and why? He was referring to the beatings of the balls, beating of the club, right? So and so make them. So was it really a ghost who Vijay Singh before? I have already told you it was not a ghost. It was a man in disguise of a ghost who used to loot people, okay, by scaring them. So with this we come to conclusion of today's lesson. Class, 2-3 important things that you got to do. Go through the story once again. It's a wonderful story. Clear? If you find any important word or word which are different or alien or new to you, try to find their meaning, list them down in a notebook. Okay. And for the yeah, list them down in a notebook and start learning them. As far as question and answer are concerned, I've given you instruction as to what you should be doing. Clear? So with this we come to conclusion of today's lesson. Thanks everyone for being part of it. It was wonderful to be sharing experience of this lesson with you all. Thank you. Keep learning, keep working hard.